Honestly, like right now, it's still a laser focus on functional medicine and optimizing health, preventative care, et cetera. That is still the laser focus. So, if someone can come in with an autoimmune condition or come in with a chronic digestive issue, regardless, they go through our sort of what we call the transformational protocol, which is just realigning their body, just making sure that it's functioning the way that it should be functioning, and that's what then leads to the reduction of symptoms, the remission of the conditions that may be experiencing, or healing from them altogether. Only then do we introduce the idea of, okay, now you're feeling great. What do you want to do now?
Welcome to the Super Clinic Project Podcast, where we take regular clinic owners and turn them into cash-based multimillionaire entrepreneurs. Warning, if you're a doctor who listens to this podcast regularly, you will make millions of dollars. Do not listen to this podcast unless you want to be a successful clinic owner who helps thousands of patients achieve their health goals and adds more money than you can imagine to your bank account. You've been warned.
Welcome to the Super Clinic Project Podcast, where we take regular clinic owners and we turn them into super clinic owners. I'm your host, Jennifer Gligoric, and today we have an incredible naturopathic doctor who is going to be talking to us about what it's like to be an entrepreneur, what's happening in naturopathy today, and how he's helping patients. Our guest is, of course, a doctor, an entrepreneur, regional educator for Nature's Way Integrative Therapeutics, and he served on the board of directors for the Ontario Association of Naturopathic Doctors. His focus is using research and modern laboratory testing methods to help patients live longer, healthier, and more meaningful lives. So very excited to welcome Dr. Rehan Lakhani to the show today with Georgian Bay Integrative Medicine. Welcome to our show.
Thanks, Jennifer. It's good to be here.
Yeah, I'm glad to see you again. I've known Dr. Rehan for quite some time. We've worked together, and I really just absolutely enjoy working with you and your wonderful wife, Siobhan, who just recently became licensed. She finished her licensing in therapy, correct?
Yeah, you got it right.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, y'all are movers and shakers.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. So tell me about your entrepreneurial journey. Did you always know that you wanted to go private, or because you've done a bunch of other things? So what made you decide to do what you're doing right now?
I think my dad has been a bit of a serial entrepreneur, so I think I had that bug in me since I was a child. But as I started getting into high school, I started thinking about what can I do as a side hustle to start saving up for university, because I knew that was an expense that was coming up. And so I started doing things like private consulting in the nutrition and exercise and personal training space, because that's something that I had a passion for, that I knew I could help people with. And so I started doing that, and it just kind of clicked for me. It just kind of clicked in the sense that I love doing the type of work that helps people out with regards to their health. And I love being my own boss. There was a time where after university, I worked for the public sector here in Canada in the health space. And it was an amazing place to work, Jennifer. It was a great place to work. Lots of great people, met lots of great people, did lots of really cool projects. But it just wasn't my cup of tea, because the level of autonomy that I didn't have did not sit well with me. I wanted to do more. I wanted to contribute more. It just felt like there was so much red tape that I couldn't get over, and that prevented me from helping people. And so after I finished school, instead of going down sort of the public health route, I ended up opening up my own practice in naturopathic medicine. And since then, it's become now more of a multidisciplinary clinic with therapists, like you mentioned, with nurse practitioners, with myself and my colleague naturopathic doctors. And we're getting more disciplines involved as well.
Well, that's incredible. That's a really incredible journey. In high school, though, I mean, how was that? That's got to be difficult when you're so young, right? Like, people are going to go, what do you know, pipsqueak, because how can you really help me? Like, whatever. And but that you were able to do that. Tell me a little bit about that, because I'm just very curious.
Well, I think at the beginning, like it always does with so many businesses, it always starts with your hot market, right? Like people that you already know, friends, family, colleagues, long lost cousins, etc. Like those are the people that already know you and that already know your strengths in the field that you're in. I used to talk about nutrition all the time. It's a personal interest of mine. I'm very knowledgeable about it. And so it started off with that, the people around me in my circle that I already knew. But once those people started seeing results, started feeling better, started noticing changes in their energy and pain and body composition, etc., that's when they started talking to other people who then would come to me that had no idea who I was. So, yeah, I was young at the time, and yeah, I did get some side eye saying, well, what do you know? But because I started off with my internal network with people that already knew me, it almost organically grew because of that reason.
I love that. And I love for anyone who's young or anyone who's looking at your passion, what your divine purpose is, and you're currently in the system, whether it's the US system or the Canadian system, and you're like, there's got to be a better way, but how am I going to do this? This is a good example of how you kind of can do it, right? Because look at the impact you're making now. If you would have stayed, that's a silly question because I already know the answer to it, but think about the bigger impact that you've already made, right?
Yeah,
by taking that chance on yourself. So doing this right now, what do you think has been your biggest challenge so far with growing the business?
Ooh, it's changed. So I think we're going into year 7 of our business, of starting this interdisciplinary clinic. I think it's changed. So at the very beginning, it was very, very, new business related problems. Where do I find leads? How do I make sure that I'm making ends meet every single month? How do I make the revenue and growth of the business a little bit more predictable and consistent? Because I had no business training at all. I just knew, like, from experience what I had done, like doing some consulting here and there in high school and onwards, but I didn't have any formal business training. So at the very beginning, it was very basic business related problems. And then as the business grew, it turned more into, it's kind of funny because, like, owning your own business is just solving one problem after another. And they just kind of evolve over time.
They just become bigger and bigger problems, right? But and exactly. I hate problems; they're challenges. You've got challenges.
Yeah. That's the thing, though, is like I really enjoy the problem solving part of owning a business and being an entrepreneur, because I'm like, I get to use my brain in very different ways and very challenging ways. I actually do enjoy that. But as the business grew, then it turned into things like, well, now we have a lot of leads coming in. We have a lot of new patients coming in. We have a lot of people to deliver our product to, our service to. How do we make sure they get the best possible outcome? And it's kind of funny because we as practitioners want to say, well, let me lay out a treatment plan for these people. And I know based off the research and my knowledge and my education that this treatment plan is going to be the best possible thing to get them to the outcome. You never know until you've seen, 10, 20, 30, 100 patients where you get to test out these treatment plans to then make it better and better and better, to then lead to the best possible outcome. Like your patients, your audience, your clients will tell you exactly what they need to improve, rather than the other way around, us coming in with a treatment plan. Obviously, treatment plans need to be there as like a structure in place based on research, etc. But it's kind of like it's never a one size fits all for everyone. So you kind of have to learn from experience what works for delivering results. So that was the next set of problems. And then now what we're facing is a growth problem, right? Hiring people, managing people, making sure that everyone is meeting their KPIs in their respective positions and jobs, making sure all patients are managed and taken care of now that our patient base has grown. So all sorts of different problems now. It's more of a growth, expansion, scale problem rather than what we were experiencing 7 years ago.
Yeah, that's interesting. When you put it back down, in what I work with, and of course, we work together, but when you start really diving into that patient journey, right? When you first start out, it's this one thing that you can do really well. And of course, everybody's different, but then you start getting challenges because the patients bring challenges. And then you start developing your base because you're reacting to this challenge and you're developing and seeing with them. And then you're like, aha, we finally figured it out. And it's so exciting. And you have to document, of course, all of this and then think, Now, is this a challenge that might affect more than just this one patient? And if it is, you need to create a protocol around that, right?
100%. Yeah,
So that
exactly.
you can now you have, oh, when that happens, this is what we do. That happened with this set and this, and then even though you still have your core offer or your core, what you're doing, it's becoming much more fully fleshed. We think about it in terms of the biggest businesses and how they grow. They first just get good at what they're doing, and then they hit capacity, and then they do something different. So when you think about Amazon, we're going to sell books. We love books. Everybody needs to have books. And so we're just going to be great at selling books. Well, we need new logistics. His first wife, Mackenzie, I believe is her name, she was absolutely brilliant in securing these motor freight deals and logistics with Motor Freight and all these different, how to get the books to people. And then once they did that, they had reached a capacity, but then it was the clients. That's when you go to something shiny or different. You know what I mean? Then the patient says, what else can you give us? Well, now that we have this, we can get you in, and now you see where that's gone, right?
Exactly.
And it's the same thing for any, really service-based business. You start out, let's just be really good at what we're doing to where we feel confident, and let's do as much as it we can. And then let's see how we can expand it. But I mean,
100%.
it's not always linear, like you're not always linear. You're not the Amazon, you're yet, right? You're Georgian Bay, right?
Yeah.
But you still get into these growth phases to get it. With the patients, what do you think has been the biggest aha moment, as the clinical side? So let's talk about the clinician inside of you. When working with the patients on what you thought that you've changed maybe in 7 years, what have you figured out is maybe more important that you didn't really delve on early on with them?
So as we've worked with more and more people, one thing that I didn't do at the very beginning of my clinical practice was go over an explanation of my assessment and diagnosis in a very detailed manner. I kind of gave them an idea of what's going on. When you go to your doctor's office, they're like, okay, your blood work looks good, but there's this one value that's off. So let's fix it by doing this. Like, it was a very basic run through of an assessment and diagnosis at the very beginning. And what we're doing now, that's made, I think, a world of difference. We're in the preventative health space. People aren't necessarily always thinking about how to optimize their health, how to prevent chronic illness, disease, etc. So one thing that we've changed is we have scheduled specific an allotment of time to go over their assessment. So their blood work, their physicals, their scans, all sorts of different things that we do here, go over it in detail and explain every single thing that's come back, either normal or maybe close to the reference ranges or maybe out of the reference ranges. And so it's a concern for us. And that has been such a game changer for us because it gets people to buy into our treatment plans to such a greater degree. Because ultimately, like I said, we're preventative. If people don't know why they're doing something, it's really hard for them to commit, buy in, and really intentionally change their lifestyle, essentially. So one really good example of this was I had a patient the other day. I was going over her lab work with her, and there was a value in her blood work that indicated higher levels of inflammation in the body, and she's in her mid-30s right now. So higher levels of inflammation in her body. And we had known from previous appointments that there's a family history of cardiovascular disease, of diabetes, of Alzheimer's, dementia as well. And we know a lot of those things come from this internal inflammation that your body holds on to. And so this value had come back a lot higher than it should have for this person. And she wasn't concerned about it at first until we broke down exactly what it meant. Like, hey, this is something we need to work on right now to move in the other direction, because otherwise it causes arterial plaques and atherosclerosis. It causes things like diabetes. It causes things like the things that, one of her parents had recently had a heart attack. The other one had a stroke. It causes things like those ailments down the line. So we really need to address this right now. And as I was explaining this to her and kind of giving her the rundown of what it means, how it shows up in the body, what it means for her in the future, she just started crying. She just started bawling her eyes
Oh
out.
yeah,
And
because
she,
it is scary, especially if you've been there at the hospital and you've seen what happens. It's
mm-hmm,
terrifying, right? Like you
mm-hmm,
don't want that to
mm-hmm.
happen with you,
And
you
she
know?
was like, I don't know why my medical doctor didn't go over this with me. And honestly, in the public healthcare system in Canada, medical doctors don't have a ton of time. It's not their fault if they don't have the time
Right.
to run over all this stuff. But she was just crying, saying, like, I don't know why no one brought this to my attention. And the way that I look at it and how I explained it is, listen, like we're like 3 steps ahead of this. We're not even symptomatic, let alone being at an adverse health event like a stroke or a heart attack. Like we are 3 steps ahead. You're in such a good position to start reversing this, to start turning this around if we act on it now. Right. So that was one of the most, I guess, like impactful conversations that I've ever had in my clinical career, because it opened her eyes as to how much of a difference she can make right now based on a value that came back as sort of a preventative value that she can start reversing now, so that she doesn't, 10, 20 years down the line, have it turn into some sort of chronic health condition.
Yeah, like I'm okay. I'm okay for now. I'm still young. Well, yeah, you're okay for now, but what's going to happen? I mean,
Yeah.
I can
Yeah.
think of things that have happened with me. Had I known ahead of time, had I had that explained, I wouldn't be doing the things I'm doing right now to
Mm-hmm.
to try to reverse it, or
Mm-hmm.
after it's already impacted things.
Yeah.
And I think that, oh, you're young, it'll be fine, just diet and exercise. That's usually what
Mm-hmm.
it is. And
Mm-hmm.
women, unfortunately, women get a lot of gaslighting in a lot of,
Yeah.
it's always, oh, you just, I'm tired, or I'm this, or even if, well, things are okay, but they're not great. Oh, well, you just need a diet. Like you can be any weight. The first thing you're
Yeah.
going to be told is you just need to diet, right?
Yeah.
And they're like, oh yeah, that wasn't that. I had stage 4 cancer. I mean, we're getting things like that a lot. And I think
I've
social
heard that too.
media,
Yeah.
as negative as it can be, it has blown up a light on these real stories of real people, and how much we have to work on our healthcare, right? It's
100%.
2025, and in many ways we've regressed, in
Mm-hmm.
so many things, and you're on the edge of taking us to where we need to be. So that's why I like what I do, because I get to work with people who are really like forward thinking and going, we don't have to be like that.
100%. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, at
So
all.
that's really like the biggest thing that we've implemented as of late. That's made such a
Mhm.
massive impact in people's ability to stick to their treatment plan, really implement it, and down the line, see some really dramatic, impactful, life-changing movements in their health. So it's very exciting.
That is exciting. I would like to say that's usually after you get them into treatment, right?
Yeah.
But it's because it's hard. Sometimes I think people want to do all of this in a sales process, like
Mm-hmm.
before you've really established any relationship with them.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's almost impossible because you just exhaust and depress them. And then they just want to go home and forget that bad thing happened.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Rather than making it more positive in,
Yeah.
hey, we can do something. Because even if someone had developed something, and it was much more serious, there's still, you're still alive, so there are
100%.
still things that you can do.
Yeah.
And I think that that's not talked about enough. Like there's a lot of people suffering with a lot of stuff that you're not dead yet. You can get better. There can be a much better quality of life. And I think we need to put
Mm-hmm.
more focus on that.
Yeah,
So
I agree.
for you guys, what do you anticipate for the future? I know you said that you're going to expand. You've become a lot more multidisciplinary. Can you
Mm-hmm.
talk about why you decided to do that, as not just from the patient end, but also from the business end, and how
Mm-hmm.
that's affected how you think about things as a CEO?
Yeah. When I started this business, one thing that I really wanted to make sure I do for all patients coming in is leverage the expertise and knowledge of not just myself and other naturopathic doctors, but other clinicians, because they have different areas of focus, different scopes, different things they can provide to help the patient move towards the outcome that they want. So the reason for going multidisciplinary is so that, like, every patient that comes sees us sees myself, naturopathic doctor, or my colleague who is also a naturopathic doctor. But in conjunction to our treatment plans, they see a nurse practitioner for any primary care needs that are a little bit more urgent or require referrals or medications or anything like that, imaging, etc. They also see a therapist, because so much of our health, you kind of touched upon it earlier. You're still alive even when you are chronically ill, but to turn that around takes so much of a shift up here. Mm-hmm. And other factors influence that, like chronic stress, like maybe grief, or maybe there's so many different factors out there that can impact.
Yeah, there are people in abusive situations, and they're like,
exactly,
I can't even, I'm in fight or flight every day. Precisely. I hear that a lot from people who go to doctors, and there's no one there to really help them or get them some resources to where they can even get to a place where they can work on that. And it's just all the healthcare providers like, oh, we just want to help you. And no, that's really good.
Exactly. Yeah. So everyone that comes in through our doors sees a variety of different practitioners. I almost picture it as like the patient is in the center, and all the spokes are all these different practitioners providing their input in an integrated treatment plan that they can follow to then get to the outcome that they're looking for. And this has been literally the key to our success, because, even as practitioners, we have our focuses, our areas of expertise, our scope. So we want to be able to expand on what we can provide to the patient so they can get to the best possible outcome. So we just want to expand on that, and perhaps get even a medical doctor involved in the care of our clinic, and provide yearly executive physicals for people as a preventative health measure, to do some yearly scans and testing as a preventative health measure as well. And then ultimately, when people are feeling good, they're feeling like their energy's back, their pain is subsided, like they're at the ideal optimal level of health that they want to be, then sometimes what our patients tell us is, how do I get even better? And so, a lot of the things that we offer are health optimization, getting better at all of these things. So we'll offer things like, for example, IVs, like NAD IV, that now a lot of people are using. You'll see it in the Kardashian Instagram now. Not plugging it because of that, but NAD IVs.
No, that's huge. NAD is everybody's talking about that, right? And you're just seeing all this crazy stuff. I wish that so many people, when the people that talk about it weren't also the people whose faces didn't move at all, like then, because it almost makes it like, okay, you don't even look like yourself, girl, right? I mean, like, you look at somebody different. What happened to your face, right? Like, I wish it wouldn't be so many people like that, because it's gotten wacky, right? But it can be for everyone.
But you can use it as a health optimization tool, right? Like, you really can. So we're expanding more into the IV space, more into the exosomes and PRP space, where you can do things like rejuvenate external skin cells, or even rejuvenate hair follicles for people who have thinning or losing hair. Just really, like, you've optimized your health. Now you want to take it to the next level and do things like, optimize certain areas of your health and body, or even do some sort of interventions that slow down your rate of aging, like the NAD first.
Mm. And that's a lot to think about, right? So, and I would challenge other medical doctors, or if you're starting out, you want to have a laser focus, right? And you want to get really good at that. The last thing you want to do is add on all of these other treatments to where you lose your message, right? And you're overwhelmed. So talk a little bit about that, the growth, and then the logistics of adding on other, basically businesses, because you'll have different business profile. You'll have someone that's there for functional wellness, and then you'll have someone who's there for more, they're already optimized. They just want to look more youthful. They want to feel, they want to look on the outside the way they feel on the inside. Those are two different profiles of people. So that's two different kind of business models. And you have to have the system set up to be able to address it, because a lead comes in, and this lead has a very specific thing. That's why they talk to you. But if they walk in and there's a bunch of other stuff, then all of a sudden, I'm in Walmart, and where I really need to be is, a Home Depot, which is only, this stuff. I don't want everything else. And that's actually a huge turnoff. In fact, it's more of a turnoff than you think. You'd be like, oh, it's great, you can get everything, but not if you've been everywhere else and no one has helped you, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
So can you talk a little bit about how you have it structured so that you have those funnels that people could come in and they understand that if this is your thing, we have a specialty that helps you with that. And we're not just going to throw the kitchen sink at you, you know, and then hope that one of these million things works.
Yeah. Honestly, like right now, it's still a laser focus on functional medicine and optimizing health, preventative care, et cetera. Like that is still the laser focus. So, you know, if someone can come in with an autoimmune condition or come in with a chronic digestive issue, regardless, they go through our sort of what we call the transformational protocol, which is just realigning their body, just making sure that it's functioning the way that it should be functioning. And that's what then leads to the reduction of symptoms, the remission of the conditions that may be experiencing or healing from them altogether. Then, only then do we introduce the idea of, okay, now you're feeling great. What do you want to do now? The world's your oyster. Like, hey, like, do you want to do this thing or that thing, this intervention?
So really that's your upsell kind of, you know, in a business sense.
Exactly. Yeah. So, we recently developed out that sort of upsell or that continuation program is what we call it. But that being said, honestly, Jennifer, like no one really comes in, no lead comes in who does not have a chronic existing health condition that we cannot help with that first transformational program that we have. Like everyone has to go through that to even for us to know that their body can even tolerate some of these other treatments that we have in the next weeks.
Yeah.
So
I would think too, before you do anything else, you've got, again, it's going to be a root cause issue. There's something at the root cause that's not working the way it's supposed to be. And so once you fix that, then you can, I like that idea of optimizing it. So from now, how has it been to get other clinicians, like you say, you have other doctors and other things like that? Are they all working for you, or are they working on their own? Do you have like just we'll take a percentage and you're working independently? Are they all in a continuous quality thing under the roof of Georgian Bay where they work for you? How is that working?
Yep. So they're all under the umbrella of Georgian Bay Integrative Medicine. We have a combination of practitioners doing a billing split. Most are on salary or hourly rates, to be honest. And what that allows us to do, why I find the percentage split and the salary, even more so the salary, a little bit more beneficial for us. What I find it does is it allows us to collaborate a little bit more as a team. And so we can do, you know, monthly case reviews where we talk about one of our patients and say, this is where this person's stuck. What do you think we should do with them? What does this other person think from this other specialty do with them? So yeah, it's a combination of both. Most folks are on an hourly / salary rate, but all are under the umbrella of Georgian Bay Integrative Medicine, so that, you know, the worst thing you want a patient to do is go to like 12 different locations for all of these services that then will contribute to their overall wellness. No, we're going to have it all under one roof and have one person coordinating their care as they move through this.
Yeah, that is, I'm going to tell you that I'm seeing that more and more. I mean, I know that people are, it's a little bit easier when you think about just the monetary aspect of it, because then you don't have to worry. You don't have to really be a CEO. You're just handling your one area and then hoping these other people will just bring in money. But when you're talking about healthcare, what that does is it fractures that patient experience, because you can't get a consistent, even though they might have the same, embroidery on there, it still feels fractured. It's because it is the mentality behind everything else is very separate. And so I've noticed that's a big trend that's coming in, is going back to the let's all get on board, be cohesive, and going back to like good old fashioned case management rather than the more, I call it the gig buck economy.
Right.
That started in the late 90s, 2000s, and that's how it became. Everybody's going to do their side hustle. They're going to work somewhere, and then they'll work just a couple of days over here. But that didn't really benefit patients at all. In fact, it fractured healthcare. And I'm glad that we're kind of going back to that, but in a way that isn't all institutionalized, where you can get out of the red tape of the systems, where entrepreneurs can really innovate, because that's the one good thing about free markets is the innovation that can happen.
Totally. Yeah.
So what's before we go, because we're here at the end, we've got guys, we've been talking to Dr. Rehan Lakhani. He is with Georgian Bay, and we'll have all of his information for you if you want to reach out to him or ask him some questions, because he's given us a lot to think about. But before we go, what are you most looking forward to for the future of you guys?
We'd like to expand into different cities. And so right now we're in a smaller town just north of Toronto. So the next expansion in the next few years would be Toronto, and have a location there, because it's a major city hub. There are a ton more people there compared to where we are right now. And so expansion into different locations, different cities will be the longer term goal, the next 5 to 10 year goal.
Well, I know you guys are going to do it, because you're on a good track so far. Do you want to leave anybody with anything before we go?
I think if you're listening in as a clinician and you're teetering on the edge of, hey, do I want to start my own thing and take a risk on myself? I would always say yes, because now is such a good time. Everyone is becoming more and more aware of preventative health, of optimizing their health. Now is such a good time to dive into this space, because there is consumer awareness to some degree. And you're going to be the gap between consumer awareness and them actually taking action, which ultimately will transform their life and their health.
Absolutely. Well, guys, you've been here with us, and you've heard it from him. If you're teetering on the edge, just go and just do it, right? Because how are you going to make the biggest impact in your life if you never take a chance on yourself first, right? Yeah. So you've been with us. This has been Super Clinic Project. You just need to go to superclinicproject.com. Be sure to like, follow, share, and give us a 5-star review. It's how we get amazing entrepreneurs and doctors like Dr. Rehan Lakhani here on our show today. Thank you for being with us, and thank you, Rehan, for being here today.
Yeah, thanks. Bye.
You've been listening to the Super Clinic Project podcast. If you like what you hear, subscribe and stay tuned for further episodes of the Super Clinic Project podcast.